Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Best of the West 3 Climhazzard, which I think just barely lost its major status due to Jazo dropping out, but it might get it back due to some retroactive points given to certain players that performed extremely well at this event. And for our top 16 finishers, you're going to have Mystery, Marvelous Marco, Mauu, and Rugal in 13th, Waka, Manny, Spargo, and Emboz in 9th. And yes, I said Spargo. In 7th place, you got Monte and Beastly. 5th place is Lemmon and Shadic. 4th place was Chag. 3rd place was Alandiss. 2nd place was Cosmos. And winning the entire thing was Ouch. So we're mainly going to be focusing on the top 8 for this video, but there are a couple runs outside of it that I did want to talk about. And obviously, first things first, we got to get the elephant in the room out of the way. Spargo ends up getting 9th place at this event, a pretty significant underperformance, just considering that he was like the heavy favorite coming into this thing, the only top 10 player in attendance, but doesn't even manage to get himself into the top 8. He's going to be 3-0'd by Cosmos in the winner side, which we will talk about when we talk about Cosmos, and then actually 3-1 by Lemmon in the loser side. And again, we'll talk about Lemmon when we talk about him, but he was just out of his mind at this event. And I really think it was more so Lemmon and Cosmos playing maybe the best they've ever played at this tournament, more than Spargo being bad, but I don't think Spargo was great. Obviously, if he was playing at his best, he probably would have won the entire thing despite everyone else playing extremely well, and it's definitely unfortunate for his season. Again, this tournament's only a B+ tier right now, maybe made retroactively to an A tier, but it's not like the most impactful event for Spargo to bomb out, and it's still only 9th place. Definitely sucks, though. Absolutely is going to hurt his chances at being the best player in the world for the majority of the year. It was already extremely difficult to do so with a couple inconsistencies that he had, as well as Hurt doing extremely well. But, you know, Hurt has an inconsistency at Battle of BC, which was a much more important event. So what I'm trying to say here is this is definitely going to hurt Spargo's season. This absolutely sucks, but it's not the end of the world. He is going to bounce back, and going into a big event like Kagaribi, I mean, I'm pretty confident he's going to bounce back. And the low tier run of the event is going to be coming in from Emboz, getting all the way to 9th place with solo duck hunt. And honestly, with all these duck hunt runs that have been happening lately, maybe this character isn't even considered low tier anymore. May finally be regarded as a good mid-tier character, which, you know what, mid-tier in Smash Ultimate means you could probably top 8 a major in the current meta of the game just because of how strong the strengths of certain characters are. And Duck Hunt is definitely one of those characters. Very polarizing in the recovery, but then you have moves like Can and Frisbee, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Emboz had a really nice losers run at this event after losing to Mauu, who's one of the highest placing Mexican players. We'll talk about him just a little bit. He ends up getting a win on Blues, Iki, or Eka, I'm not super sure how you pronounce that, 3-2 over Gilhu, which I feel like would be miserable for Duck Hunt. The offstage gameplay I feel like would be extremely difficult to navigate, but Emboz manages to do so, as well as a Game 5 win over Mystery, which I know would be difficult to recover against that massive sword of Lucina, and then finally loses a Game 5 to Monte. Very, very close. That could have gone into his favor. But Game & Watch, I mean, while we're on the topic of edge guarding, that one is miserable. You also have a bucket at your disposal to help deal with Can and Frisbee. So I imagine that matchup is extremely difficult for Duck Hunt to be able to take it all the way to Game 5. I think is extremely telling of how well Emboz was playing at this event. One game shy of making it to top 8 and had an incredible losers run. Big props to them. And we are going to be moving on to the top 8 pretty quickly here, so if there's anyone I leave out, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to tell you about them. But I do want to highlight our 4 highest placing Mexican players that didn't get into the top 8, aside from Spargo. Of course, you're going to have Rugal, you're going to have Mauu, both finishing in 13th place, and then you had Waka and Manny in 9th place. For Rugal, he's going to end up losing to Ouch in the winner side. Can't feel too bad about that one, especially considering the guy went on to win the entire event. Managed to take a game as well, so that's got to feel nice. Then you have Rugal getting a Game 5 win over Sent. First game is in Sent's favor, Min Joker. Then in Rugal's favor, Min Joker. Then Sent's favor. Then it's Meta Knight Min in Rugal's favor. And then it's Cloud Min in Rugal's favor. So I don't know if maybe the Meta Knight just got figured out towards the end of that game 4, decided that Rugal needed a switch up, but I have so much respect to him for actually switching to Cloud of all characters against Min as well. That takes some serious cojones, ends up working out. Then the Cloud continues to find value in the loser side with a Game 5 win over over Beast, and then a 3-0 over MFA. All Markcloud. I mean, that's definitely a nice matchup that you will take. But really, really solid run from Rugal here. Ends up falling to Waka at 4th or at 13th place in a game 4. Surprisingly, doesn't like Cloud at all in that set. I assume he just has like a ton of reps versus Waka. Very experienced in that matchup as well. So that's why he doesn't want to try it. And it's not like Joker is a bad choice, but considering how well it was cooking previously, you know, it's definitely something interesting to think about. But shout out to Rugal for the run. I didn't even know he had a Meta Knight, and he ends up pulling it out in a very crucial moment to keep his loser's ride of run, or his loser's run rather, alive in this bracket. Then you're going to have Mauu, who doesn't have a loser's run but finishes in that same possession of 13th. He's going to get a win on Emboz in the winner side, so he was actually the one that starts that really nice loses run. Then ends up losing to Spargo, which you can't feel too bad about that one. Even if he wasn't on his A game, it is still Spargo at the end of the day in a game 4. Gets a game 4 win over Ludo, and then loses a game 4 to Beastly. And I do think that Diddy Kong does pretty good against the FGC characters. Just Banana and Monkey Flip, and the combination of those two tools is, I think, really difficult to deal with. But a lot of game 4s for Mauu. Ends up getting a pretty solid placement of 13th, just exactly placing his seed. So great run from him. Then in 9th place, you're going to have Manny, who has this run predominantly, and by predominantly, I mean entirely, through the winner's side. He gets a Game 5 win over Apple Reviewer, as well as a 3-0 over Marvelous Marco before falling to Ouch in a Game 5. And again, Ouch is really good against Steve. We saw that last weekend, or not last weekend, but a couple weekends ago, where he beat Akola and Pocket at Battle of BC. Like, yeah, he lost us here, but 2 for 3, we will definitely take that. So for him to be able to get it over Manny, I think is definitely expected, but very impressive that Manny still manages to take a game. Then you're going to have him falling to Beastly in a Game 4, and that's like massive props to Beastly. We'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about him. I do think that's a struggle matchup for Diddy Kong, but 9th place for Manny is definitely solid. Ends up placing his seed here, so really no complaints. Unfortunately for the other Mexican finisher in 9th place that isn't Spargo, Waka is not going to place his seed. He was the 4th seed of the event, so slight underperformance for him. He's going to end up getting upset by Chag in the winner's side, but then beats Aundrick in a Game 5, which I didn't think was on stream, but if it was on stream, you need to go find that set, because I promise you it would be an absolute banger whenever those guys play. It's just such a slobber knocker. Reverse 3-0 in Waka's favor as well. Then you're going to have Rugal versus Waka playing in the loser side. Waka taking that one in a 3-1, and then it's Shadic against Waka, which is honestly like maybe the worst person at this entire event that Waka could have gotten. Like, even out playing the way that he was, maybe Cosmos too, but Corrin just obliterates Luigi. You just have such a massive disjoint against that character, where the disadvantaged state, the neutral, really any state of the game is just extremely difficult to play against. So 9th place for Waka. Yes, he does underperform his seed, but also when you look at the players that he lost to, it's not that big of a deal. And we have arrived at the top 8, starting off with our 7th place finishers. You're going to have Beastly and Monte, specifically starting off with Beastly. He's going to have the loser's run of the event after getting upset very early on by Panda B, or Panda Bear is maybe the full version of that, but it's just a very fancy B on start.gg. Anyway, though, that's going to be a 3-0 in his favor. And in the loser side, you Beastly 3-0ing Starboy, going Game 5 against Lubra, an Ice Climbers player, which is a pretty difficult matchup for Diddy Kong, in my opinion. So managed to overcome that one. 3-1 over Nexus, 3-2 over MC, so 2 Falcos in a row. 3-2 over Mo, which is the only player at this event that he beats who was seeded higher than him, so big props to him for that one. Takes out one of the top 8 seeds. Then you're going to have Mauu in a 3-1 victory, and Manny in a 3-1 victory to get himself into that top 8 through the loser side. Once in top 8, he has the misfortune of running into Shadic, and even though Shadic doesn't have a great record against Tweak, who is like the only other kind of Diddy Kong comparable at this level, he's still really good at the matchup. I still think that Corrin is pretty decent in the matchup. I wouldn't say it's winning for Corrin, just because you still have Monkey Flip for Diddy Kong, which is just really good against any sword character. But of all the sword characters in this game, I do think that Corrin maybe does the best against Diddy. I think Aegis also have an argument as well, just because of that mobility. But that really big sword of Corrin is super helpful for keeping Diddy in that disadvantage state. Edge guarding as well can be really difficult for this character. You just have these big lingering hitboxes, and it's a 3-0 in Shadic's favor. But still, really nice run from Beastly. He was the loser's run of the event, so gotta feel good about that one. And Monte, back-to-back top 8s from Battle of BC to Best of the West. If you told me that 2 people would get top 8 at both of those events, and Spargo wasn't one of them, I would be incredibly surprised. But you have him getting so. You have a 3-1 win over Bernie and a 3-0 win over MFA. Then he ends up losing Game 5 to Chag in the winner side, but beats Emboz in a Game 5 to get himself into that top 8 through the loser side. Once in top 8, ends up losing to Lemmon in a 3-1. But really nice run here from Monte. That's 2 amazing runs from him in a row. And honestly, with Meister taking a bit of a step back this season, there is a very real chance that Monte is the highest rated Game Watch player in North America. Now, I'm sure Meister's not going to like the sound of that. He's going to try to steal that title back when it comes Cog time. But honestly, Monte's got a pretty good head start, and I'm curious to see how it unfolds. In 5th place, you're going to have Shadic and Lemmon, starting off with Shadic. He's going to get a Game 5 win over Nexus 3-0 over Gilhue, then ends up losing to Alandiss in a Game 4, and that's just a really difficult matchup for Corrin. Yes, you do have a really big sword to keep Snake in disadvantage, but none of Corrin's combos, well, some of them, but most of Corrin's combos aren't actually true, but it doesn't really matter because she has the best frame trapping in the entire game, because this massive up air or neutral air move just covers all of your options. But with Snake, he has access to grenades, so it makes it so Corrin's damage output is significantly worse. It's very easy for Snake to kind of disengage or fully escape from those situations where normally you would just die as the opponent. So that can be extremely difficult for Corrin. You also just have the neutral in general, I think, being a little bit tricky. You're not able to just swing that big sword around willy-nilly because there is the chance that you just hit that grenade and go for a really bad time. It's one of those matchups where if the Corrin player is being extremely precise, absolutely they can win, but you just have to think a lot more than you normally would. So Shadic ends up falling to the loser's side there. Then he gets a 3-1 win over Waka to get himself into top 8, 3-0 over Beastly, which, as I said earlier, I think of the sword characters that do against Diddy Kong, Corrin is one of the better ones, but it's not an easy matchup by any means. So for him to be able to win that has got to feel good, and then ends up losing 3-0 to Chag. And honestly, I think that was more of a testament of how well Chag was playing at this event. And I think Shadic was playing fine at this event. It definitely wasn't like spectacular, but also I think if you were kind of expecting spectacular from Shadic, it's kind of unfair considering that he's taken a bit of a step back from competition lately. I believe that this is actually his first major, no, it's his second major event of 2025. He ends up going to Luminosity, makes big moves as well. But Shadic has been largely out of the game for competitive Smash this year. So for him to come back with a 5th place at Climhazzard, it's definitely a strong start. But on the topic of being spectacular, you have the other 5th place finisher of Lemmon having quite the run at this event, getting a 3-1 win over Andrix, slight upset in the winner's side, then loses in a Game 5 to Ouch, but still manages to take Ouch to Game 5. Considering he didn't drop a set at this event, I'd say that's pretty impressive. Gets a 3-1 win over Litton, 3-1 win over Marvelous Marco, a 3-1 win over Spargo, upset factor of 8, absolutely insane, and then a 3-1 win over Monte as well to get himself not into top 8, but further into top 8. Then he has the misfortune of running into Alandiss, ends up losing that one 3-0, but still, amazing run from Lemmon, picks up a couple really nice wins along the way, and a really, really nice win along the way. I mean, that set over Spargo, he looked unbelievable. He was just moving around the stage. He was so fluent in everything that he was doing. I'm honestly at a loss for words. I really just recommend that you go and watch that Lemmon Spargo set. He was unbelievable. I hope that we get to see more of this guy competing at this level, because Lemmon's always been one of those players that was at the brink of greatness. He was just like 1 or 2 good wins away from getting himself on a super deep run, and this was that super deep run. I think this guy's gonna have a ton of confidence and momentum behind him now, and I'm just excited to see what he does. In 4th place, you're going to have Chag. Super solid run from him at this event. And I think Chag is a player that fell off a lot of people's radar, but should have always been on your radar. This is always someone that is going to be a threat when he shows up to an event, especially considering that his min-min is just a full co-main at this point. He may even be considered like more of a min-min player than a Palutena player. I'm not really sure. I still feel like Palu's probably his best character, and at this event, he got his most important wins with Palu, but the min-min also had a ton of value. He used min-min in his first set against Reem, as well as his second set against Motomami, and his third set against Layton, where he managed to win that one in a Game 5. Then it's the Palu against Waka and Monte. Once in the top 8 up against Cosmos, it's both the Palutena and and the Min. The Min is the primary attempt for those first two games. Doesn't end up succeeding, but it's what he tries. Ends up getting a 3-0 win over Shadic as well. And even if it's Shadic, like maybe not in his best form, you still have to beat that guy. And fundamentally, he's one of the best players in the world. If you're going to beat someone with Palutena, you need to do it probably by having a little bit better fundamentals. So for Chag to actually get that job done, very, very impressive for him. And then finally ends up losing in a game 5 to Alandiss. Almost pulls off a reverse 3-0 with the Palutena ball characters, not even the Min, but Alandiss ends up holding down that third game, or fifth game, I should say. But really nice run from Chag. This is someone that you need to have on your radar. He's one of the top talents in Mexico. Yeah, he took a little bit of a hiatus, but he's right back to that top level. And honestly, I hope we get to see him travel more. In third place, you're going to have Alandiss, and every once in a while, I think the world is just reminded of how legit Alandiss is. If he just had more opportunities to travel, he would be up there with guys like Meister, MK, Leo, Spargo. He's one of the best players in Mexico, but he just never gets to go to anything. When we do see him go to stuff, it looks like this. He's got a 3-1 win over Ludo, 3-0 win over Mystery, and a 3-1 win over Shadic to get himself into the winner's side. Yes, it's not a great matchup for Korn, but it's still Shadic. Then he loses 3-0 to Ouch, who played phenomenally in that set. I gotta say, he played phenomenally the whole tournament, but especially in that set. Then he gets a 3-0 over Lemmon, beats Chag in that game 5, destroys the Min as well so hard that Chag doesn't even want to bring it out in the other games. It took him to the last stock, so it wasn't actually like destruction, but I do think it's very interesting that you have Chag just trying the Palutena there, despite the matchup definitely being better for Min. It's not a bad matchup for Paulo, but I'm getting off topic here. Then you're going to have Alandiss losing in a game 5 to Cosmos, who was also playing excellently at this event. Very, very good set. One of my favorite ones of the tournament. But Alandiss is just one of my favorite players. He plays fake, so just full bias on a display here, but I really like how he plays the character, just the timings that he takes when he chooses to be passive or when he chooses to be aggressive, I think is excellent. He really just suffers from lack of experience. I need to have people either travel to this guy or allow this guy to travel, because he's one of the best talents that this game has to offer, and he's a ton of fun to watch. In second place, you're going to have Cosmos. And up until Cosmos played that set against Ouch, I was convinced he was winning this event. He looked so clean, only dropping a single game before his set against Ouch to Scent. And then he goes Inkling in the next game to actually end up winning that one. So shout out to Scent for taking a game. Did better than Spargo did in their set. He got a 3-0 over CK, 3-0 over Mo, 3-0 over Spargo. And it's just such an impressive 3-0. Like, if you beat Spargo, amazing. You did something that most people can't do. 3-0ing Spargo is a whole different story, and to do it in the way that Cosmos did, he just felt like he was in control the entire time. He had that set on lock. He looked unbelievable. Then he's got a 3-0 over Chag, ends up losing game 4 to Ouch, beats Alandiss in the game 5, and then loses 3-0 to Ouch in the grand finals. Even tries the Inkling in that third game to no avail. But Cosmos looked exceptional at this event. We haven't seen a ton of him in 2025. Actually, I think he's been in Mexico, so maybe that's why he did so good at this event. You know, he's been training there, been playing with all their players. He's got the home field advantage, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be going to California. Honestly, you'd be pretty surprised if he wasn't. And now I'm really excited to see him at this event. Cosmos was always one of those players, literally since Smash Ultimate came out, that you never really know how he was going to place. He was always one of those wild cards, but after this run, I think he's honestly got a shot of top-8ing that event, making some real upsets in that bracket, and I'm just really excited to see what happens now. And your big winner of Best of the West 3 Climhazzard is going to be Ouch. And it's not surprising that he won this event considering the way he played at Battle of BC, but holy did he look good doing it. He's got a 3-0 win over Pisty, 3-1 over Rugal, game 5 over Lemmon, almost reverse 3-0 there from Lemmon, and honestly, that's massive props to Lemmon. Again, he just turned on during sets at this event, but Ouch manages to stop him, gets that game 5 win, then he gets a 3-1 win over Manny, 3-0 win over Alandiss, 3-1 win over Cosmos, and then a 3-0 win over Cosmos in the reset. I said this earlier, I'm going to say it again, if you told me that there were going to be 2 players that top 8 a Battle of BC7 and Best of the West Climhazzard, and it wasn't Spargo, I just would not have believed you. But for both Monte and Ouch to show consistency at back-to-back events has got to feel amazing for them. And for Ouch, he has not been to a lot of stuff this season. He has been to Eugene Bound, which he did get 33rd at, not the best. And prior to that, he has been to nothing. That's all he's done in 2025. He's got 33rd at a B+ tier. 4th place at an S plus tier, and now 1st place at a B plus tier, maybe made to an A tier after some retroactive changes, because again, it's really, really close to a major event right now. But title of the event, regardless what you want to call it, Ouch won it dominantly. He looked amazing. I am so excited to see this guy coming into future events. Like, I'm always excited to watch Ouch full bias, but the potential behind him now is just like infinite. He's one of those players that it was always like, once he hits his ceiling, he is going to be the GOAT. He's going to break through and just absolutely destroy everyone. He has officially broken through. The destruction has begun, and it's just going to continue unfolding this way. 2025, year of the wolf, both Masha and Ouch having success. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This photo has been absolutely unreal. Is there anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.